Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to our math session where learning math is fun. I am Faithlyn Williams, your teacher for today. In today's session, we will be renaming numbers. In the process, we will be identifying hundreds, tens, and ones. But before we begin, I want to bring back your memory to some blocks you would have seen or used before. Look at these blocks. Do you remember what they are called? Wow, boys and girls. Did you say they are called base 10 blocks? You are correct. Base 10 blocks are used to show representation of numbers. I want us to look closer at them to see the numbers they represent. The first block is called a unit. It will be used to represent ones. It has a value of 1. The second block is called a long. It represents tens and has a value of 10. Boys and girls, can you guess how many units would make up one long? Let's see about that. I will fit the units on the long, and there you will see how many units make one long. Let's go. Amazing! If you were counting, you would have seen that there are 10 units that fit along the longs. So there are 10 ones in one 10. Now the third block is called a flat. It represents hundreds and has a value of 100. Boys and girls, did you know that there are 100 units in one flat? Yes, 100 ones are equal to 100. I wonder if you could tell me how many longs would make up the flat. Amazing. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, boys and girls. 10 longs make up one flat. So there are 10 tens in 100. Boys and girls, look at this number on the screen and tell me its name. Amazing! Did you say 37? That is correct. Now, boys and girls, I want you to look at how we can use base 10 blocks to represent the number 37. We will use a place value mat to help us. We call this a place value mat because it helps us to see that each digit in a number can be represented by a set of base 10 blocks. Now 37 has 2 digits, and so on this place value mat we will put tens and ones. Now 37 has 2 digits. The digit 3 represents 3 tens, and the digit 7 represents 7 ones. Look at how we can use base 10 blocks to show 3 tens and 7 ones. And so for 3 tens, we will use 3 longs. You got that. 3 longs. Remember now, each long represents 10, and 3 tens are 30. Excellent. And now for 7 ones. How many units will we use? Amazing. We will use 7 units. Great going, boys and girls. There we have it. To represent 37 with base 10 blocks, we use 3 longs for 3 tens and 7 units for the 7 ones. You're doing well, boys and girls. I have a scenario that I want you to listen to. Some grade 2 students were asked to use base 10 blocks to represent the number 42. We will look at how Dylan and Kemoy represented the number 42 using base 10 blocks. But first, we will look at Kemoy's representation. Kemoy uses place value mat. On his place value mat, he wrote tens and ones. Next, Kemoy looked at the digits in the number 42. The digit 4 in the number 42 represents 4 tens. So Kemoy wrote 4 in the tens place. The digit 2 in the number 42 represents 2 ones. So Kemoy wrote 2 in the ones place. Let us look now at the base 10 blocks that Kemoy used to represent 4 tens and 2 ones. Boys and girls, which base 10 block do you think Kemoy used to represent 4 tens? Excellent! If you said the longs, you are correct. Let's see how many longs Kemoy used. There we have it. Kemoy used 4 longs to show 4 tens. And which base 10 blocks do you think he would use to show 2 ones? Great going, boys and girls. If you said he would use the units, you are correct. And there we have it, 2 units. Now, let us look at how Dylan represented the number 42 using base 10 blocks. Dylan also uses place value mat. On his place value mat, he wrote tens and ones. Let's look at what Dylan did. Wow! Dylan used 3 longs and he wrote the number 3 in the tens column. Then look at what he did for the ones. Wow! Dylan used 12 units in the ones column and he wrote 12 under the ones. Amazing, boys and girls. Who do you think is correct? Is Kemoy correct? Is Dylan correct? Let's check to find out. For Kemoy, Kemoy used 4 longs. Remember now, 1 long represents 10. So 4 longs would be equal to 40. And 2 units added to 40, let's add that. 40, 41, 42. So 2 added to 40 equals 42. What do you have to say about Kemoy's representation? I agree with you. Kemoy is correct. Now, what do you think about Dylan's representation? All right, let's talk about Dylan's representation. Now, 3 longs are equal to 3 tens, and 3 tens are equal to 30. Now, let's look at the 12 units. 12 units, as Dylan showed you, are equal to 12 ones. And let's now add those 12 ones to the 30 and see what we get. So 12 added to 30. Let's go. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Wow, boys and girls, did you hear that? 12 added to 30 gives us 42. Who are you saying is correct? Wow, I can hear you arguing, but let us look a little closer at Dylan's representation. Do you think Dylan could have represented the 12 units another way? How? Amazing, boys and girls. If you said Dylan could have represented the 12 units as 1 10 and 2 ones, that is correct. Remember, 12 units can be renamed as 1 long and 2 units. Let us do that. So we'll take 10 of the units and we will rename it as 1 long. And then look, here we have it. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 longs, giving us 4 tens. And what is the value of 4 tens? Amazing, you said 40. And here we have 2 units remaining. Now, boys and girls, if you look at what both boys did, you would see that they represented 42 two different ways, but they got the same value. Boys and girls, a number can be written in any way, but guess what? You have to check to see that what you wrote is correct. Boys and girls, what have you observed from the activity that was done by Dylan and Kemoy? Great! If you said you observed that 42 can be written in different ways, that is correct. Now, boys and girls, 42 can be written as 4 tens and 2 ones. Now, 4 tens has a value of 40 and 2 ones has a value of 2. 2 added to 40 gives us 42. And now, 42 can also be represented as 3 tens and 12 ones. 3 tens has a value of 30 and 12 ones has a value of 12. 12 added to 30 gives us 42. There we have it, boys and girls. 42 shown in different ways. Boys and girls, I know you have been enjoying working with numbers and especially the base 10 blocks. I know you're excited to put into practice what you have learned so far. And so I have some tasks lined up for you. Your first task is to look at these base 10 blocks and to tell which number they represent. There we have it, 2 longs and 15 units. To help us identify the number, we will use a place value mat. On our place value mat, we will write tens and ones because we're using longs and units. What do you think the value of 2 longs is, boys and girls? Great! If you say 2 longs has a value of 20, that is correct. Remember now, 1 long equals 10, and 2 longs would be equal to 10 plus 10, which gives us 20. So we will write 2 in the tens place and 0 in the ones place. Now for our 15 units. To help us write our 15 units, we will use 10 frame maths. Now, 10 frame maths help us to identify groups of 10 ones quickly. Look at this. Let's put our units on the 10 frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boys and girls, this is amazing. This one group of 10 on our 10 frame can be renamed as 1 longs. So we are going to rename the 10 ones or the 10 units on our 10 frame as 1 long. And there we have it. We will rename 15 units as 1 long, which is 1 tens, and so we put 1 in the tens column. And on our next 10 frame, we have 5 units, which we will put in our ones column. So there we have it. 15 renamed as 1 10 and 5 ones. Boys and girls, remember, we want to identify the number that these base 10 blocks represent. So we will add each column. We have 5 added to 0, that gives us 5. And in our tens column, we have 2 tens, and we will add 1 10 to that. So there we go. 1 10 added to 2 tens gives us 3 tens. So on our place value mat, we have 3 tens and 5 ones. We read this number as 35. Excellent, boys and girls. So there we have it. The value of 2 longs and 15 units represents 35. You are doing well so far, and I'm sure you are ready for another task. Boys and girls, here is your second task. I want you to look at these base 10 blocks and tell me what number they represent. We have 7 longs and 13 units. Do you know what number 7 longs and 13 units represent? Oh, not so fast, boys and girls. We will use our place value mat to help us identify the number. On our place value mat, we have tens and ones. First, we will show 7 longs on our place value mat. What is the value of 7 longs? Great going, boys and girls. If you said 7 longs represent 70, that is correct. And there we have it. 70, 7 tens, and 0 ones. And now for our 13 units. How are we going to write that on our place value mat? Wow! Not so fast, boys and girls. We will use our 10 frame to help us write our 13 units on the place value mat. Remember now, our 10 frame help us to identify groups of 10 ones quickly. So we will now put our 13 units on our 10 frame mats. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 units. From our 10 frames, we can see that we have one full 10 frame. On that 10 frame, we have 10 ones. We can rename that 10 ones as 1 long. So we will rename this 10 ones as 1 long. So there we have it, boys and girls. 13 units can be renamed as 1 long and 3 units. To put that on our place value mat, we will write 110 for the 1 longs and 3 ones for the 3 units. Now, boys and girls, to find out which number 7 longs and 13 units represent, we will add each column. So in our ones column, we have 0 ones and 3 ones. 3 added to 0 ones give us 3. In our tens column, we have 7 tens and 1 10. 1 10 added to 7 tens gives us 8 tens. Boys and girls, can you read the number on the place value mat with me? Great. The number is 83. 8 tens and 3 ones. So there we have it. 7 longs and 13 units has a value of 8 tens and 3 ones, which is the same as 83. Boys and girls, here is your next task. I want you to look at these base 10 blocks and tell me what number you think they represent. But first, let us count the longs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 longs. And how many units do you see? Great, 3 units. So there we have it. 13 longs and 3 units. Boys and girls, do you know what number 13 longs and 3 units represent? Wow, let's look at 13 longs. Do you know what 13 longs represent? Yes, I agree with you. 13 longs represent 13 tens. But do you know the value of 13 tens? Okay, boys and girls. To help us identify the value of 13 tens, we will rename 13 longs. I wonder if anyone could tell me what we could rename the 13 longs as. Great guess, boys and girls. Earlier we learned that 10 longs make 1 flat. So we could rename the 13 longs as flats and longs. Let's rename 10 longs as 1 flat. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there we have it. 10 longs. And we now rename it as 1 flat. So here we have it. 13 longs is the same as 1 flat and 3 longs. We will use our place value mat to help us identify the numbers shown here. Now look at this place value mat. On this place value mat, we have hundreds, tens, and ones. And that's because we have flats, longs, and units here. So first, let's look at it. How many units do we have? Great, we have 3 units. How many longs do we have? We have 3 longs, and so we will write 3 in the tens place. And how many flats do we have? Great, we just have 1 flat, so we would write 1 in the hundreds place. So there we have it, boys and girls. Can you read this number with me? 133. And we can say 133 is the same as 100 plus 30 plus 3. And that gives us 133. So boys and girls, 13 longs and 3 units represent the number 133. Is that what you guessed at first? Excellent. Boys and girls, from the activity that we just did, we observed that 133 can be written in different ways. For example, 133 can be written as 100, 3 tens, 3 ones. Now 100 has a value of 100. 3 tens has a value of 30. And 3 ones has a value of 3. So there we have it. 100 added to 30 added to 3 gives us 133. 133 can also be written as 13 tens and 3 ones. 13 tens has a value of 130. 130 added to 3 gives us 133. There we have it. Renaming numbers is not so difficult after all, boys and girls. Now, boys and girls, I want you to look at these base 10 blocks and tell me what number they represent. Wow, I can hear you saying, first I have to check, and you are on the right path. So first of all, let's observe the base 10 blocks that are shown here. We have longs and units. How many longs do we have? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 longs. And how many units do you see? Great, 6 units. So there we have it, 10 longs and 6 units. Do you know what number 10 longs and 6 units represent? Boys and girls, how are you going to find out? Great! If you said we could look to see if we could rename any of the blocks, that is excellent. Now look carefully. Do you think we can rename any of the blocks here? Great, boys and girls. If you said we could rename the longs, that's excellent. Now what would you rename the longs as? I'm sure I heard you said flat. How many longs make one flat? Great going, boys and girls. 10 longs make one flat. So we could rename the 10 longs as one flat. Let's see how that is done. So there we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 longs. And we will rename our 10 longs as one flat. Do you remember the value of one flat? Excellent. One flat has a value of 100. We will use our place value mat to help us identify the number. Again, on our place value mat, we have hundreds, tens, and ones. How many units do we have? Yes, we have 6 units. So we will put 6 in the ones place. And how many tens do we have? Or how many longs do we have? Great, boys and girls, there are no longs. So how do we write to show that we have no longs? Great going, boys and girls. If you said we would put 0 in the tens place, that is correct. And how many hundreds do we have? Great. We have one flat, which is the same as 100. Boys and girls, can you read the number that you see on our place value map? Excellent. 106. So there we have it. 100 added to 6 gives us 106. Boys and girls, you are doing so well. Boys and girls, your next task is to look at 4 tens and 17 ones and tell me which number it represents. Are you ready with your answer? Boys and girls, to help us identify the number that 4 tens and 17 ones represent, we will use our place value mat. On our place value mat, we will write tens and ones. Now, do you know the value of 4 tens? Great going, boys and girls. 4 tens is the same as 40. Now, the digit 4 in the number 40 represents 4 tens. So on our place value mat, we will write 4 in the tens place. The digit 0 in the number 40 has a value of 0 ones. Therefore, we will write 0 in our ones place. Now let's look at 17 ones. Do you know the value of 17 ones? How can we write that on our place value mat? Great going, boys and girls. If you said you will rename 17 ones as 110 and 7 ones, that is correct. Now we can place this on our place value mat. 1 tens in our tens place and 7 ones in the ones place. Boys and girls, to identify the number that 4 tens and 17 ones equal to, we will now add the numbers on our place value mat. In our ones place, we have 0 ones and 7 ones. 7 ones added to 0 ones give us 7. And in our tens place, we have 4 tens and 1 10. 1 10 added to 4 tens give us 5 tens. So there we have it. 5 tens and 7 ones. Can you read that as one number, boys and girls? Excellent. 5 tens and 7 ones is the same as 57. Great job, boys and girls. I am so proud of you. Boys and girls, for each activity that we do, you just seem to be getting better at renaming. Now here is your next task. I want you to read the question with me. Which are the same as 235? Boys and girls, how are you going to find that out? Excellent. If you said you first have to check each of the items, that is correct. But first, I want you to look at 235 and see how we could write it another way. 235 can be written as 200 added to 30 added to 5. And that gives us a value of 235. Boys and girls, this helps us as we look for numbers that will give us a value of 235. Let's look at A. Read A with me. A says 2 hundredths, 3 tenths, 5 ones. I wonder what is the value of 2 hundredths, 3 tenths, 5 ones. Do you know, boys and girls? Excellent. If you say 200 is the same as 200, 3 tenths is the same as 30, and 5 ones is the same as 5, and 200 added to 30 added to 5 gives us 235. You are correct. So there we have it, boys and girls. A is the same as 235. Again, A, 2 hundredths, 3 tenths, 5 ones. Now let's look at B. Let's read B together. 2 hundredths, 5 tenths, and 3 ones. Is B the same as 235? Okay, boys and girls, I hear you loud and clear. But first, let us check. Let us look at the value of 2 hundredths, 5 tenths, and 3 ones. Did you say 2 hundredths, 5 tenths, and 3 ones is the same as 200 added to 50 added to 3? Great going, boys and girls. Now, is 200 added to 50 added to 3 the same as 235? I agree with you, boys and girls. 200 added to 50 added to 3 is not the same as 235. And we see that because the tens are different, as well as the ones. Now, boys and girls, let's move on to C. What about 23 tenths and 5 ones? Is 23 tenths, 5 ones the same as 235? How are we going to find out, boys and girls? Great! If you said we must first check, that is correct. But do you know the value of 23 tenths? Excellent, boys and girls. If you said 23 tenths is the same as 230, that is correct. Now 230 added to 5 ones gives us 235. So yes, boys and girls, I agree with you. 23 tenths, 5 ones is the same as 235. Now for D. Can you read D with me? D says 235. Boys, do we need to work out anything for that one? I agree with you. 235 is just writing 235 in words. So boys and girls, there we have it. A, C, and D are the same as 235. You are doing so well. You deserve a clap. Excellent. Now pat yourself on the shoulder. Boys and girls, here is your next task. I want you to read the question with me. Which is another way to show 14 tenths, 7 ones? How are we going to find out, boys and girls? Great going! If you said we must first look at the value of 14 tenths, 7 ones, that is correct. So here we go. 14 tens is the same as 140. 140 added to 7 ones gives us 147. So boys and girls, we will be looking for choices that have a value of 147. Let's look at A. A says 147 ones. Is that the same as 147? Excellent, boys and girls. I agree with you. 147 ones is the same as 147. Now let's look at B. B says 14 tens, 7 ones. Is that the same as 147? Yes, I can hear you saying it is the same as what we have in the question. So you got that one. Now let's look at C. C says 100 added to 4 added to 7. Is that the same as 147? Okay, boys and girls, let's check and find out. 100 added to 4 is 104. 104 added to 7 is 111. Boys and girls, is C the same as 147? Excellent. No way. Now let's look at D. Great. D is a giveaway, and that's an easy cheese for you. It's just another way of writing the number 14 tens, 7 ones. So let's look at the choices. Here we go. Excellent. So there we have it. A, B, and D are the same as 14 tens, 7 ones. Boys and girls, you are just getting better and better. I am so proud of you. Boys and girls, here is your next question. Read it with me. How many tens and ones are in 869? Again, how many tens and ones are in 869? Are you ready with your answer, boys and girls? Let's look at the number again. 869. If you said there are 86 tens and 9 ones in the number 869, that is correct. Boys and girls, here is your final activity. This table shows the amount of money 3 students spent at a school's canteen. Can you look at the table and tell who spent the most money and who spent the least? How would you know, boys and girls? Great! If you said we would first have to check how much money each student spent, that is correct. So here we have it. Abigail, Jordan, and Daniel are the students that we are thinking about. Let's look at how much money Abigail spent. Right, so remember now we want to find out who spent the most money and who spent the least money. So boys and girls, let us first check to see how much money Abigail spent. I want you to look carefully on the table to see the different types of money that the children spent. Okay, great. So we see $100, $10, and $1. But for Abigail, how much $100 did Abigail spend? Great going, boys and girls. Abigail spent $5 $100. Now let's count how many $10 Abigail spent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Abigail spent 12 $10. Boys and girls, let's write that to the side of our table. In all, Abigail spent 5 hundreds and 12 tens. That's $500 and 12 $10. Let's write the value of 5 hundreds. 5 hundreds is the same as 500. 500. And the 12 tens is the same as, I wonder if you know, boys and girls? Excellent. 12 tens is the same as 120. Do you know how much money Abigail spent? Guess what? We will use our place value mat to help us. On our place value mat, we will put hundreds, tens, and ones to show the different notes that the children spend. Now let's look at it. Here we have 500s. Abigail spent $500 and 12 $10. Let's put that on our place value mat. So there it goes. 500 and 120. How are we going to find out how much money Abigail spent in all? Great going, boys and girls. We must add all the money she spent. And so we have it. In our ones column, we have all zeros. So 0 added to 0 is 0. In our tens column, we have 0 tens and 2 ones. So 2 added to 0 gives us 2. And in our hundreds column, we have 500s and 100s. 500 added to 100 gives us 600. Beautiful, boys and girls. Can you read how much money Abigail spent? Great going. Abigail spent $620. Give yourself a clap. There we have it. Abigail spent $620. Now, boys and girls, we will check to see how much money Jordan spent. Again, look at the $100 and tell me how many $100 did Jordan spend? Great going, boys and girls. Jordan spent $400. What about the $10? How many $10 did Jordan spend? Great, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jordan spent six $10. And look, how many $1? There we have it. Jordan spent 5 $1. So we have $400 for Jordan, 6 $10, and 5 $1. Let's write that to the side of our table. So 4 hundreds, 6 tens, 5 ones. And we're going to write the value of that. 4 hundreds is the same as 400. And 6 tens is the same as 60. And 5 ones is the same as 5. Now, boys and girls, again, we will use our place value math to help us find how much money Jordan spent in all. Let's go. So we will write the numbers on our place value mat. We have 400, and for 60 we have 6 tens, 0 ones, and we put in our 5 ones. There we go. Now let's add each place value. For the ones we have 5 added to 0, added to 0, and that gives us 5. And then for the tens we have 0 tens and 6 tens. 6 tens added to 0 tens gives us 6 tens. And then for the hundreds we have 4 hundreds, and so we just put back 400 in our 100 columns. Let's read how much money Jordan spent altogether. Jordan spent $465. Now, boys and girls, it's time to check to see how much money Daniel spent. Can you tell me how many $100 did Daniel spend? Great, boys and girls. Daniel spent $600. And what about $10? Did Daniel spend any $10? Exactly. Daniel did not spend any $10. Let's go. Let's see how many $1 did Daniel spend. We're going to count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 $1. Daniel spent $600 and 15 $1. Let's write that to the side of our table. 600s and 15 ones. We're going to write the value of 600s. 600s, there we have it. And 15 ones is the same as 15. Now, to see how much money Daniel spent, we will use our place value math. Okay, before we do that, we can rename 15 ones as 1 tens and 5 ones. That makes it easier for us to write 15 ones on our place value mat. Here we go. And so For 600, look at how 600 is placed on the place value mat. There we have it, 600, 0, 10, 0 ones. And for 15 ones, or 1 tens and 5 ones, there we have it. And now to see how much money Daniel spent, we will add 5 ones to 0 ones, and that gives us 5. Next, we will add 1 10 to 0 10, that gives us 1 10. And we will add the numbers in the hundredth column. And there we have 6. So we put back our 6. Let's read how much money Daniel spent. Great going, boys and girls. Daniel spent $615. There we have it. Daniel spent $615. And please take note, boys and girls, the dollar symbol is placed right in front of the numbers. Now let us remind ourselves of the amount of money spent by each student. Abigail spent $620, Jordan spent $465, and Daniel spent $615. Boys and girls, with this, I think you are now ready to answer the question. Do you remember the questions? Not to worry, boys and girls. Here is a table to remind you of the questions. The first question is, who spent the most money? I know you're ready with your answer. But first, let me remind you of how much money each student spent. There we have it. Who did you say spent the most money? Excellent, boys and girls. How did you know? Great. If you said you looked for the largest sum of money, that is correct. The largest sum of money here is $620. So Abigail spent the most money. What about question 2? Who spent the least money? And how do you know? Another excellent answer, boys and girls. If you said that Jordan spent the least money because he spent the smallest sum of money, that is correct. There we have it. Boys and girls, you have been doing so well. I want you to give yourself a pat on the shoulder. Boys and girls, I have one final question for you. How much money did they spend in all? How are you going to know? Great going, boys and girls. If you said you will add the money they spent together, that is correct. But first, let me remind you of the money each student spent. There we have it. Now to add the money they spent, we will use our place value mat. Here we go. Excellent, boys and girls. 620, 465, and 615. Now, boys and girls, when we're adding, if we come across a number that can be renamed, I want you to clap. At the sound of the clap, I will stop and we will have a discussion about which number we need to rename and what we will rename that number as. Are you ready, boys and girls? Great. In the ones place, we have 5 ones to be added to 5 ones. Now 5 ones added to 5 ones gives us 10 ones. Excellent. Wow. Did I hear a clap, boys and girls? Wow, that means we need to rename. Now tell me, what will we rename? Great, we will rename the 10 ones. And what will we rename the 10 ones as? Excellent, boys and girls. If you said we will rename the 10 ones as 110, that is absolutely correct. So there we have it. From our 10 ones, we are left with 0 ones, and we now have 110s that we will add to the tens column. In the tens column, we have 1, 6, 2, and 1 to add. Let's add the 1 to the 6. 1 added to 6 gives us 7. Now we will add the 2 to the 7. 2 added to 7 gives us 9. And then we will add the 1 to the 9. 1 added to 9 gives us 10. So there we have it, boys and girls. 10 tens. Wow! Did I hear another clap? Boys and girls, what does that mean? Oh yes, it means that we need to rename. So what will we rename? Excellent, we will rename the 10 tens as 100. Boys and girls, I'm so proud of you. So if we rename the 10 tens as 100, how many tens do we have left? Great going, boys and girls. We don't have any tens left, so we will write 0 in the tens place. And of course, we will put 1 in the hundreds place. Let's add the hundreds. We have 6 hundreds, 4 hundreds, and another 6 hundreds, and of course, the 100 that we placed here. Let's add 6 hundreds to 4 hundreds. 600 to 4 hundreds gives us 10 hundreds. And next we will add 6 hundreds to 10 hundreds. 6 hundreds added to 10 hundreds gives us 16 hundreds. And last we will add 100 to 16 hundreds. 100 added to 16 hundreds gives us 17 hundreds. So there we have it, boys and girls. Let's read together how much money the students spend in all. Great. They spent $1,700 in all. Boys and girls, you have done so well. You deserve a pat on the shoulder. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder. So there we have it. Together, Abigail, Jordan, and Daniel spent $1,700 in all. Boys and girls, you have done so well with renaming numbers. But here are a few points I would like you to remember from today's lesson. When renaming numbers, look carefully at the value of the hundreds, tens, and ones. Next, check to see which place value can be renamed. And from today's lesson, we learned that we can rename 10 ones as 110. We can also rename 10 tens as 100. Boys and girls, that's all for today. Have a great time until we meet again.